Japan hosting Ireland in the next game of Pool A. Both these teams undefeated. They both had opening wins. Neither of them is top of the pool. Interestingly, Samoa has that honor for the moment with their points difference over Russia. But Ireland really dominant in their performance against Scotland. Really looking the business from what we can see from one game, which admittedly is not a big sample size at the World Cup. And Japan, a few nerves in that first game, but ultimately a very good result for them over Russia. And I think Russia in their two games have kind of shown that they're maybe not the minnows that everyone thought they were going to be. Big game in terms of the pool. If Ireland get the win, then they're really putting themselves forward through to being the top team in the pool, because their remaining games will be against Samoa and Russia, who, I mean, you never know, but those teams are the lower ranked of the pool. So Ireland with the kind of two hardest games up front. And then Japan, they realistically need to beat either Ireland or Scotland to get out of the pool. So this is one of their two chances here at home. So we'll see how things go. I'll put the teams in the description so you guys can have a look. These teams do not have a very long and not recent rugby history. They've only played twice from what I read. 2 times, and both times Ireland have won. Once at 91 and once at 95 Rugby World Cup. So quite some time ago. The first one in 91 was 32-16, so not that emphatic. I remember back in those days, New Zealand used to put a whole lot of points on Japan, but again, how relevant is that to today's game? Not really. And the second one was 50 points to 28 in 95. So again, very long time ago, back when I was in primary school. So not much meaning there, and it's all about the present for these much changed sides. So for Japan, they've got a decent schedule in terms of the rest. Like, they played on Friday, Ireland played on Sunday, so Japan do have a couple of days rest on them. It's a slightly shorter turnaround for Ireland. Given how early it is in the competition, it's not like the 4th game of the pool. You wouldn't have thought that would be a drastic difference, but you never know in the final kind of 10-15 minutes in that weather. It may just be a fact that the Japanese guys got a little bit more rest, but they've still made some changes, some of them positional and some of them personnel. Yamanaka moves to fullback from the bench. Tupou didn't have his best game at fullback under the high ball, and I'm sure Ireland would have taken note of that. So Tupou has moved to the wing. I believe he's more natural at the wing, but I guess we'll see. I think he's no slouch at fullback. It's just he didn't have his best night. Matsushima is still there on the other wing. He's the guy who got the hat-trick, so everyone will have their eyes on him. That's no doubt. Lafaele and Nakamura in the midfield. Nakamura, his tackling stats weren't the best, so he'll have to be careful when you look at the Irish midfield, which is going to be running at him, and I believe that selection, which I'll get to in a second, may be very deliberate. Tamura and Nagare are still 9 and 10. 10 and 9 in that order. Front row, Inagaki, Horie. This time Ku comes in to tight head from the bench, so he swaps with Valu. But again, not much in the way of changes. Thompson moves up from the bench. Moore still keeps his spot. Himeno moves in from number 8, and that guy had a fantastic game, so it's good to see him retain a starting spot, even though Yamanaka Mafi is back at number 8, and he is, if you haven't seen him play, he is a devastating player. He, in Super Rugby for like 2 years, was one of the top run meter getters and top runners. He's just, with ball in hand, he's very dynamic. So if you haven't seen him before, look out for him at number 8. Interesting, Labuschagne is captain at number 7. So yeah, that's the Japanese lineup. Leitch has moved to the bench. Van der Valt's moved to the bench. Lemeki has moved to the bench. Matsuda still on the bench along with Tanaka. So yeah, it's an interesting looking Japanese squad. I don't know that I've ever seen Labuschagne captain Japan before, but we'll see how he goes. For Ireland, they've made a few changes. Rob Kearney is back at 15, and that'll be very good news for Irish fans, because that guy is just such a safe pair of hands at the back. You feel like defensively, even though they were absolutely watertight last weekend, that's even going up a notch with Rob Kearney at the back. Earls comes in on the right wing, so there's no Conway this week. Lama has moved to the bench from fullback from last week. Stockdale's on the other wing, and boy was he good last week as well. Ringrose retains his 13 jersey, but Chris Farrell is in there at 12. And that guy, I mean, Aki has had, I think, was it concussion stuff to deal with, so that may be just a enforced selection. But the fact that you've got a ball runner like Chris Farrell running at Nakamura, who didn't have his best game defensively, seems like it could be a wise move. Maybe a fake, I don't know. Joe's a smart guy, but either way, it seems like a very good selection. Interestingly, Carty gets a start at number 10. Sexton is not in the squad. He's, I guess, getting a rest because he had a bit of a muscle strain, I believe, in the last game. Murray is also there at 9. So that's the backs. The forwards, and the forwards were just dominant in that game against Scotland, and it's probably more so than the backs, where Japan will need to match Ireland if they're going to get any kind of result. Healy, Best, and Furlong, one of the best front rows in World Rugby. Henderson, who was immense, alongside James Ryan, who was also just fantastic last week. So that's a big challenge. I think if you're looking at the one area where the two teams have their biggest gap, you would probably say it's the second row. That second row of Ireland is world class, whereas the one from Japan, I'm sorry to say, is a bit ordinary. O'Mahony, Van der Flier, and Stander retain their spots in the back row as well. So again, it's that's a top-notch back row. But I would back Himeno, Labuschagne, and Mafi to match a closer level than the second row anyway. Other substitutes, Cronin comes in. Good to see him get a game. There's still Kilcoyne, Porter, and Byrne. Ruddock comes in. I think Conan's got an injury, otherwise he was going to play. Carberry comes in. It's good to see he's finally fit because he picked up that knock prior to the World Cup. It looked like his World Cup might be over, but he still made it. And like I said, Lama is there on the bench as well. So, yeah, no Aki, no Sexton, and no Conan. I believe Conan was going to play, injured himself in training. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. The bookies have got Ireland by 20 points, so relatively comfortable. Rugby Forecast has got Ireland by 18, so much of a muchness between those two. As I said, the rugby history is not recent, so it's kind of hard to gauge how these teams will go up against each other. Hopefully it's a cracking game. Very good players on both sides. Japan with that home advantage. Ireland look from the first round of the Rugby World Cup to be the form team. So, yeah, you guys let me know your thoughts on the squads. How do you think this one's going to go? And I will talk to you again soon. See you later. You guys know I'm into my rugby gear. If you are interested in getting some rugby kit, especially for the 2019 Rugby World Cup, check out England Rugby Store. It's not just for England gear, despite the name. All Blacks, Japan, Georgia, South Africa, Ireland, all the kit is here if you are keen on getting some rugby gear. Discount code 2cents10. If you put that in when you're going to the checkout, you get an additional 10% off your purchase. So the link is in the description for England Rugby Store. Do check it out, guys. If you're going to get some jerseys, now's the time to do it. And yeah, enjoy the rest of the tournament.